So, I've been dreading this announcement ever since the Switch came out in 2017. Quite frankly, I'm amazed this hasn't happened sooner. I've been thinking about how I want to talk about this for a while, since the announcement. The Wii U and 3DS eShops introduced me to so many kinds of games. I never used the Wii Shop channel for anything really, and I don't think the majority of Wii owners did either. It was sad when it closed because a piece of the Wii experience was gone. Forever. But thankfully a massive chunk of its library were all shovelware nobody was interested in, and the rest were all made readily available on other platforms. So while it was sad, in the long run it wasn't that big of a deal. The eShops on 3DS and Wii U are a completely different case, and nowhere near as disposable. Between the two systems, the store is host to digital versions of their main games, some of which have since gone out of print and have become rare and expensive as a result, ports of titles that have aspects unique to these systems that did not get physical releases, and countless virtual console titles spread across many previous platforms of games, and hundreds of original titles from both first-party and third-party that are not available anywhere else, most of which are likely never coming to the Switch eShop.
Excuse me, sir. I do believe I would like to purchase one Game Boy game. It's no longer possible to make Nintendo eShop purchases for Wii U and 3DS. What? But I'm willing to pay you. Here. Nope, no purchases allowed. I'm trying to be a good paying customer. Why not put the games on Switch? They aren't available on Switch. Don't you have a Switch eShop? Yep. So you could make your legacy content available there at any time. Yep. I'd like to purchase those games on the eShop with my money, without resorting to piracy, which you so thoroughly despise. So you should make them available for Switch. That makes sense to me. Then do it. We currently have no plans to offer classic content in other ways and also don't pirate our games.
Last year, we almost had a similar issue with PlayStation. To focus on the PS4 and PS5, they announced they would discontinue the stores for the PS3 and PS Vita. Understandably, people were outraged, as the PS4 store did not retain most of what was available on PS3, especially PS1 classics. The Vita was not a successful portable, but it did well enough and has a cult following. There are even developers still making games for it to this day, a lot of which were not happy. Everyone in a short span of time were panic buying up as much as they could before they couldn't. After hearing all the outrage, PlayStation stopped to consider and decided that it was probably better to leave the stores open for the foreseeable future. That is probably a good choice. Nintendo, on the other hand, most likely will never come to the same conclusion. I want you to think about old retro consoles, such as the NES, SNES, or maybe even Sega Mega Drive, stuff that probably existed before you were born. Someone can become interested by or become a fan of something at any time, even if it's old and not currently supported. Let's say you find out about one of these old consoles, maybe you tracked one down and found some games for it, or maybe you were given them as a gift from someone who didn't want them anymore. As long as they are still functioning, you can happily enjoy these as they were originally intended. Fast forward to consoles that require an internet connection and it becomes a completely different story. Say 16 years from now, a kid gets their hands on a Wii U and become interested in it and want to learn more about the games it had, and when they find a physical disc, let's hope those servers still allow software updates. What if that game has since become extremely rare and expensive, and you don't want to spend $400 on it? Years back you would have been able to download it digitally for its retail price, but that's not an option. Maybe the game you want was only ever released on the Wii U digitally. Well, you can't and never will play it. Not unless you find an undamaged console that just happens to already have it installed on it. Who knows, maybe you'll even mod it. Everything is on the internet somewhere. That's the problem we have with this. Not only part of the system's experience is lost, but many games are just gone. We're not just talking about how vital preservation is in the context of games, but so much more is at stake too. I mean, it's not completely dire. Nintendo do always find a way to make legacy content available, and sometimes only temporarily, but they never do all of it. It took most of the Wii's lifetime to get all of its virtual console games, and once it did, the Wii U was out, and it was slowly getting those virtual console games, but it would still take several more years before it got all of it, and there's still a handful of important ones that never got further than the Wii. But then, oh no, the Switch is out and we have to start the cycle over, but never mind, you can't buy them anymore anyway. But you do get a collection of legacy games if you buy their subscription service that they've slowly been dripping out NES games for, and they've had SNES games since 2019 and we're only now getting Earthbound. And by the time Switch Online has gained all of its expansion passes that probably cost like $180 a year altogether, oh no, the next Nintendo system is here and you gotta wait another 4 years before you're allowed to play Earthbound on it. I think I've made my point about that, sorry for ranting. I know the Wii U is an overlooked console, and I get that Nintendo has been trying to sweep it under the rug since 2017, but the truth is, if the thing had a better name and actually a decent marketing material, things may have played out differently, because I honestly love the Wii U, and it has never let me down. I've made multiple videos mentioning stuff I love about it, and I honestly think people complained about it just for the sake of complaining, as people always find a reason to do these days. It had so many great games that looked incredible, even by today's standards, on hardware much weaker than what other platforms boasted at the time. And the gamepad was responsible for so many unique experiences only possible with it. Some great, some not so great.
No, those were bad! All motion controls suck, and we don't need a second screen! And the gamepad is so uncomfortable to hold, and so many buttons!
For one thing, most modern game controllers use gyro controls for all sorts of things, and nobody complains about Splatoon 2 on Switch. And I don't think anyone had a problem with the DS and 3DS's second screen. And having a second perspective, like a third-person view on one screen and a first-person on the other, is pretty cool. Not to mention having access to a menu or item select without needing to pause is pretty useful. And honestly, this thing has the same controls as any other controller, plus a microphone, a camera, and a touchscreen. So if you had a problem with this, how are you perfectly fine with this? Yeah, it's smaller, but it's literally more uncomfortable to hold. While editing, Banjo-Kazooie fell right off the shelf and knocked the shovel right out of Shovel Knight. Back to the video. And anyway, just look at this eShop. I love how organized the front page is. New releases, demos, special offers, etc. And below we have big thumbnails of some of the Spotlight games and DLC. Some of the best and most iconic the Wii U has to offer. And under that you get categories for franchises and genres. You also got browse buttons for all games and all applications. Right below all that is the Virtual Console, which takes center stage with all available platforms presented nicely. NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, TurboGrafx 16... Wait, that's not a Nintendo system, what's that doing there? Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, I have no idea why they are available on the Wii U and not the 3DS, but oh well, these are the best way to play them anyway. And Wii. No GameCube, however. I have no idea why GameCube games have never gotten the re-release treatment outside of specific remaster ports. I mean, modders have shown that GameCube games run perfectly on this, but that's besides the point. And right below, we get a nice view of the stuff available on 3DS and mobile. That is how you make a digital storefront. Meanwhile, on Switch... I'm sorry, but I've never liked how the Switch eShop is presented. It's so basic. Mostly just top to bottom screens of items with a bar on the side. And for the longest time, it didn't even have a front page. We have Discover Now, but it only has a few categories, and they don't stand out from the individual software. They don't even group things together, everything's just kinda there. Arcade classics, Neo Geo games, and all the Switch Online classics, they all just sit about loosely. Even the 3DS eShop is well organized into folders and subcategories. I'm sorry for bashing you, Switch, I just don't get some of the decisions behind you. Fun fact, did you know that between the Wii U and 3DS eShops, almost the entirety of the Legend of Zelda and Metroid franchises are here? All the main entries across the NES, SNES, N64, sorry Samus, Game Boy's Color, Advance, DS and Wii up to the Wii U and 3DS themselves, and even the GameCube games are accounted for. The GameCube original Metroid Prime and Metroid Prime 2 were included in the compilation Metroid Prime Trilogy for Wii. Despite being an expensive limited edition game physically, is readily available among the Wii games for the Wii U. For now. And both Legend of Zelda Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, which were originally made for the GameCube, had HD remasters that overhaul the game's visuals and controls for Wii U. Four Swords Adventures not accounted for. Metroid Prime Pinball either. I guess Nintendo forgot about those ones. Can I also add that last year I wanted to play Samus Returns, but used copies compatible with my regions are freaking expensive. We're talking 3 digits here for a 2017 3DS game. I ended up buying it on the eShop in the end, but aren't I glad I did it last year and not next year? But what are other people gonna do? Sure, everybody, myself included, are panic buying up everything now, but once we have it on our personal consoles and we have them for good, that doesn't help anyone who jumps aboard at a later time. Like I said, someone can become a fan of something, of anything, at any time, especially if it's way after that thing's time. The Metroid series, while one of the better and influential Nintendo series, its fanbase has been small for a long time, and most people know of Samus through Smash Bros. But in the middle of last year, when Dread was announced, its trailer was so intriguing, and almost immediately interest in the series from all over took off like mad. And where did people go? Where did they go? They went to the Wii U eShop. So many people wanted to catch up on the series. Sure, Metroid and Super Metroid were available on the Switch thanks to Switch Online, but that's it. And soon enough, all the Metroid games on Wii U hit top of the highest sellers list worldwide. Heck, even now, Prime Trilogy, Fusion, and Zero Mission sit at 3rd, 4th, and 5th top downloaded respectively. Or at least that's what my Wii U says. But can you see how much impact interest in a series alone can make here? So in conclusion, these eShops still hold a lot of value, and I really hope Nintendo changed their mind like PlayStation did, but I don't see that happening. When Nintendo makes a decision, it's usually pretty final. But anyway, I hope watching this you've learned a thing or two, and until next time, stay tuned, and stay awesome. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you even more for being patient with me. I have quite a few unfinished videos on the backlog here, and there is more coming soon. I wrote the script for this ages ago, and as you can probably see in this video, I've been recording the Wii U gamepad a lot because my house was struck by lightning over a month ago, and it killed the TV, the router, and the PlayStation 4. But the Wii U tanked through it and still works perfectly fine except for its HDMI port, which no longer functions. I'm gonna try and get that fixed, and as you can see, I've been trying to get as much existing Wii U footage as I could in this video. But anyway, until next time, see ya.